Hey guys, Rocco here from ActiveGearReview.com, and on test today we have this bad boy, the LowePro ProTactic BP 450 AW3. It's a mouthful, but we'll dive into it and we'll dissect how good and how bad this bag can actually be. Let's just start out with the kind of the basics of the aesthetic of the bag. As you can see, I think it lives up to its name of ProTactic, right? It has a very tactical look to it. The all black, obviously all the webbing and moly panels that you see here, really all over the bag. They're more on the top here, more on the very top of the lid, as you can see. Up here, more webbing on the sides. It does have a very tactical feel to it. And for a working photographer, I mean, it works great because it gives you a lot of opportunity to hang more gear or kind of accessorize as you will. And we'll get into a few more accessories here that we've got on test as well. It does come with these straps, these tension straps, which are really nice because you can, if you want to put a jacket here or a tripod, for example, you could easily do that. It works really well. They can be attached on the sides if you want to hang a tripod on the side, or as well underneath if you want to lash something to the bottom of it. A nail pad or even a collapsible stool would work in a bag like this. The bag itself is heavy. I think it weighs in empty about 6.5 pounds. It's not a light bag. For me, this bag is built extremely tough, and tough equates to durable, which is good, but it is also very heavy, as I mentioned. 6.5 pounds is not a lightweight right out of the gate, and then once you load it up with camera gear, it does get pretty heavy. Now, LowePro does a great job of offsetting that by the harness system that you see. They do a great job, and we'll get into that a bit more here as well, on how the harness system works and how comfortable it is and kind of the options. As you can see, there's a hip belt, and the hip belt's relatively padded, which is nice, and relatively robust because you're going to want to have to take some of that weight off of your shoulders. If this thing's loaded up with camera gear, and I'll show you how it's loaded up in just a bit, you're going to want to take some of that weight off your shoulders. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day, and you're going to feel it in your neck and your shoulders, and you're not going to want that. So we'll get into that a little bit too. But as you can see, the bag does come across as very durable. It is, if you can hear this. There's some really nice reinforcement in this top lid to protect. For example, I've got a 70 to 200 in this top lid that I can swap to back and forth, and I'll show you that in a minute. But it's very protective. This is not going to let you down. The sides are a little softer. It doesn't have that same kind of reinforcement, but it is still very burly. As far as durability is concerned, this bag is going to have you covered. A mix of 600D and 900D recycled polyester, super tough. It's not going to rip or tear. It's going to hold up to all kinds of burly activity, which I've kind of put it through myself. And as you can see, it still looks brand new, and it has seen some action. So from a durability standpoint, I don't think you're going to have any concern here. And obviously that is a main concern because you're going to be carrying around a lot of expensive, irreplaceable camera gear, especially if you're on site or you're at an event or something like that, that you're only going to get one shot at it. You're going to want to make sure that one shot works, and this bag is going to have you covered. So let's talk about the fit and kind of some of the external features. Let me throw this bad boy on so you can see. And like I said, I do have it weighted down with some gear. Don't have a camera body in it because the camera body right now is recording this video. The hip belt comes in nice and handy because you're going to want, like I said earlier, you're going to want to take that weight off of your shoulders here. And then the sternum strap is going to come into play as well, which is nice. And you've got all kinds of lash downs for excess strapping and all that stuff, which works really well. I mean, nothing new. There's a whistle on the sternum strap, so if you're out in the wild, you need to call for help or you need to get someone's attention or ward off a bear, God forbid, that's available. But as you can see, it rides pretty well. The only thing it doesn't have from a carry perspective is it doesn't have those load lifter straps, which I really kind of wish it did because you can get this thing loaded up significantly with some weight. And I would just love to cinch this down a little bit more to take up just a little bit of this gapping up here. Everything else works really great. Like I said, the waist belt is really padded, feels good. I'm not a huge fan of this clasp, the buckle is a little thin to me. I haven't had any problems with it, but I wouldn't mind a little bit more robust buckle just because it feels, the aesthetic and the feel of it does inspire a ton of confidence. But overall, it's worked fine. We'll see how it holds up. But externally, there isn't a lot going on this bag other than all the webbing and the MOLLE panels, which, as you can see, again, very significant. I mean, I would almost say in some regards it's overkill, but it definitely has that tactical look. There are some pockets on the sides. There's a water bottle pocket here that's very stretchy. This mesh is nice, very high quality. There's webbing inside, so if you want to secure something within that side pocket, you could do so. So if you have a pen or a USB stick or something like that, you can secure it in there. These are just access pockets to the interior, which we'll get into a little bit more later, but as you can see, pretty cool. And there are 4 access points to the interior of this bag, which is great because it makes it much more versatile from a use standpoint, especially if you're on site with an event. You can see more in here. We'll get into that. Again, on this side, another water bottle pocket with the same webbing inside, same aesthetic, same use. These pockets here are a little curious to me. It's nice that they're there. I wouldn't say that they're the most usable. There's a key fob holder here, which is a little unique in the way the clip is kind of unique, as you can see. But there isn't much to it, and they're pretty thin. So when the bag's packed out, and again, it's a relatively firm padding inside, it doesn't have a lot of give. So this pocket, although they did add some stretchy mesh panels here to give you a little bit of an extension, it doesn't hold much. So think a wallet, maybe a memory card holder, for example, but nothing significant is going to fit in there. Same on this side, exactly the same pocket, same experience without the key fob, same stretchy panel here. Nice to have. That's one of the biggest drawbacks to me is I kind of wish there was a little bit more organization, or at least an extra external pocket that you could get a phone in relatively quickly, or some earbuds or something like that that's easily accessible, that has a little bit more space to it. But you know, this is really, and I'll get into this later on who this bag is really for, but this is really focused for photographers, so it's a very specific use case kind of bag. I did use it as a hybrid bag a couple of times just to see how it would work for travel, and although it got the job done, it was not the right bag for the use. And I'll get into that a little bit more later as well. But back to the exterior of this bag. So these straps are interesting, and Lowe does this in a lot of their bags, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It's kind of a two-sided coin in my mind. These straps are very much the same as a regular tension strap. You pull it tight, but then it has these little locking clasps, which is great for security, but kind of a pain in the butt if you're trying to use this on the fly quickly, strapping things down quickly, or you're on the move. Let's say you're shooting a wedding, for example, which I've done before. It's tough to have to manipulate this, tighten something down, re-manipulate it when you're moving quick. And I know it seems like a small thing, but in use, from a user experience, it's just a little cumbersome. But again, like I said, on the flip side of that, it does add more security, which is nice. This is not going to break loose, and whatever gear, if you have a carbon fiber tripod, for example, it's not going to fall out of here. So, you know, is the juice worth a squeeze there? I don't know. In my mind, not so much, but you know, depending on how you use the bag, maybe you would appreciate that more. It's got these typical spring-loaded clips here, so you could move these straps up and down. I did have a couple instances where these broke free. Now, granted, I had it really cinched down, really tight. So your mileage may vary there. I haven't had it happen since, but it did happen once or twice. Again, water bottle pockets on the side. I already showed you these pockets. This top pocket is interesting. Again, very secure. There is a pocket here on the top that you can stick a phone in. Again, it's not super accessible since it's on the inside of the bag, but it is nice to have. And there is a gusset here. This gusset here actually keeps the weight, or keeps this volume intact. So you could put something in here if you needed some charging cords or a charging brick or something. It could sit in here and it would work fine. And it's padded, which is nice. Here's a 70 to 200 inside the top. I also have, it comes with the all-weather cover, which is nice. I'm not going to take it out. I mean, I think most people know what an all-weather cover looks like for a backpack. but it'll keep the bag dry. So if you are out hiking or you're a nature photographer and you're out shooting wildlife and the weather changes on you, you're covered. This is just a unique little carry-all, catch-all. See, empty inside, there's nothing in here, it's just an open space, so you could put memory cards, extra batteries, whatever else. It does have the same webbing on the back and this Velcro, which is nice, as you can see. So you can attach it to the hip belt, and I'll show you that a little bit more later. Put these things back inside, and then, so that's how you open the top. That's one entry point, and you can access the whole bag depending on how you have the dividers set up inside. You could access the whole bag from the top. I don't know why you would do that, but it's available. So that's access point number one. Access point number two, as I mentioned earlier, side panel access, nicely padded. As you can see here, I've got a flash and an external strobe, speed lights, all kinds of good stuff in here that are easily accessible. Obviously, you would probably pack that with your camera body or a lens that you know you'd be going to on the regular in one of these. Same on this side, exact same experience, but I'll show you just so that everyone can see. I've got, here's another one of the dividers, which we'll get into when we get into the interior. Different flash head, easily accessible. Again, really nice, smooth zippers. YKK zippers. They're not AquaGuard, but they are really nice. They slide super, super smooth. And then the main panel access, which I'm not going to go into just yet. I want to cover the harness first. But you do have a luggage pass through here, which is great, and I did use it. It works. It's pretty snug to the back panel of the bag, so you do have to kind of work the handle through it. It's not an easy slip through as I've had with some other bags, but it gets the job done. More grab handles here. Really nice padded grab handle on top. So if you're pulling this thing out of an overhead bin or off of an airport shuttle, for example, or out of the trunk of a car, you've got options on how you're going to grab this thing, which is great. So again, another grab panel down here with a lot of white dog hair. Yeah, so let's talk about the harness. It's comfortable, nicely padded, thick padded shoulder straps. What they don't do is they don't adjust. So depending on your size, this bag works for me. I'm 6'1", but I'm right at I'm right near the top of the use of this bag. If I was 6'3", for example, I would probably struggle with it because I think the hip belt would hit too low. So there is that. But there's a lot of comfort here, which obviously it's gonna be a big requirement because you're gonna be carrying a lot of gear. These stretchy tabs here so you can attach more gear, sunglasses, whatever else you might need. Obviously the sliding, and again, sliding and locking sternum strap. Again, that little clip. Now here I don't mind it as much because I'm not going to be adjusting this very often, but Lowe is kind of all in on these locking clips, which again, these don't bug me, but some of the others kind of do. Let's get into the hip belt because it's pretty interesting. I mentioned the clasp, the buckle itself doesn't inspire the most confidence. I haven't had any problems with it. I'm used to a more robust buckle, but that's just me. Typical adjustment here as far as sizing goes. The hip belt itself is actually really nice. It's very thick. It's got more webbing here so you can hang more gear off of it. And what I mean by hang more gear off of it, let's say you want to use some of the accessories, and these guys do come with the bag, but again, you can see, and the way Lowe does this is really nice. It's kind of a redundant Velcro system, so this thing is not going to break loose. But you would just attach that through the webbing here, and you would have access to extra batteries or whatever you might need, maybe a light meter if you're using one. Quick access things that you want kind of on your hip. The hip belt itself does come out, which is really nice because if you don't have the bag loaded up or you're traveling with it and you don't want the hip belt in the way, you just have to break the Velcro loose inside and you've got a hip belt. Now this hip belt is actually pretty useful on its own. If you want to use it as a utility belt, you can. And then you can hang gear off of it if you're on the move or you're wearing a camera harness and you don't want it necessarily in the bag, you can wear the hip belt separately, which I've actually done, and it worked out really, really well. Perforated mesh, a lot of breathable channels here for airflow, a nice air channel down the middle, so your back, you're still gonna get warm. Any backpack's gonna get kind of warm, right? But it does a pretty good job of kind of working that airflow through the back panel area so that you don't completely overheat. And again, these grab handles here, which are really nice. Okay, so before we go into the interior of the bag, which I know I'm sure everybody's pretty excited about to see how the guts of this thing works, let's talk about the ProTactic Utility Belt 3. Now this is a separate purchase. It's similar in design to the belt that comes with it, although a little bit more robust, just slightly. A little bit more padding, it's a little thicker, a little wider as well, which is nice. This belt has a lot more functionality to it than the stock belt. The stock belt works great, but this one, as you can see, and I've used it this way, it's got a lot more webbing basically across the entire belt, so you can hang all kinds of accessories. I have a lens case here that I bought separately that works great with it, so you can stack an extra lens in here, and then this little pocket, as you can see here, is where you'd put the lens in while you're changing it, so it has some place to live, and rather you're not trying to fumble it with multiple hands, which is awesome. And then another just kind of all-purpose catch-all bag here with some dividers. Again, you can put lens in here, another camera body, whatever you need. Charging port, there's a nice charging port access, or an access port to a charging brick if you need one, which is great, so you can charge on the fly. Anyway, this belt works really, really well, and it is a little bit more robust. It does have the same clip, which is interesting, as the backpack, so Lowe's all in on it, but it does a really good job of doing what you need to do. And as you can see, I've kind of used it in action, and it's been great. So if you're just running with a camera harness or a single camera, and you want to take some extra gear with you and you don't want the whole bag, something like this is really awesome. You can still do it with this one, it just doesn't have quite as much functionality, so it's really up to your use case. Lowe was nice enough to supply us with this, so I was able to test it out, and now that I've got it, I don't think I would want to get rid of it. In fact, what I'm going to do is swap out this hip belt with this one full time, so I always have it with me when I'm using this bag, and I can always just pull it out, release the Velcro, pull it out, and have it ready to go in this kind of a setup. So as you can see, a little bit difference in width and a little bit difference in padding, so it is a little bit more robust. All right, let's get into the guts of this bad boy. Again, really nice back panel access to the whole bag. Opens up as a clamshell. Really nice zippers. Let's get these guys kind of out of the way for a minute. And there we go. There's the guts of this bad boy, which is awesome. I do kind of wish that these straps would I know it'd be difficult, but maybe they could detach so you could get them out of the way, or they could fold away inside somehow. I'm not sure how they would do that, but just to get them out of the way would be kind of nice. You can see same access to the 70x200 through the top panel. And then these dividers are just awesome. I mean, Lowe crushes this. These guys, they're firm but padded. The Velcro is significant. This Velcro is not going to break down on you, which has happened to me before in camera bags, because what you end up doing is you're reconfiguring this bag based on the project at hand. So if I'm shooting a wedding, I'm going to have a lot of different lenses with me. I might even have a drone with me. If I'm shooting wildlife, for example, if I'm hiking up in the mountains and I'm shooting wildlife, I'm going to have a very different setup. I might have more cold weather gear in here, for example. Or if I'm using this as a hybrid bag, which I'll get into in a little bit, it's going to be set up different. So you're going to be repositioning this Velcro constantly, and this stuff is serious. They do not mess around with their Velcro selection, which is nice because it's not going to break down. So the way this is set up, you can see here, I've got it kind of sectioned off in a lot of different ways. I've got a kind of a tech pouch from Wandered. Just got a bunch of gear in it here. As you can see, charging cables and all that good stuff fits in here great. Lowe makes a bunch of different kind of cases as well. These hard cases that have flash accessories, different gels, all kinds of fun stuff. I've got my headphones in here from travel, another 2 lenses, obviously, a couple flashes, a strobe, and then this piece, which actually comes with it, which is kind of a camera, a lens holder. So again, you can attach it to the hip belt, just drop a lens in here if you need to, or I don't know if you want to carry snacks, or you've got some trail mix or something like that if you're on the go, or you're shooting, maybe you're a birder and you're shooting birds all day, you want to do something like that, or a water bottle holder. Yeah, which is nice that they include that. It's not the most robust piece, but it's going to do the job, and it's got a drain port at the bottom, so if it does get wet, you're going to be fine. But this interior is just great. It does such a good job of breaking things up. As you can see, There's so much going on in here, and I love the fact that they include different colors. So if you want to section this off in a way that denotes personal gear from camera gear, or however you would want to set up this bag, you can do it basically on color code, which is really nice from an organization standpoint. You can set up shelves like I have here. So I had a lens on top of this, a lens underneath it. It's just super versatile. And then over here on this side, you've got these kind of clear plastic panels, which are good for batteries, extra gear. If you have a shot list and you don't want it to get wet, you could put it in here. Again, more, as you can see my fingers through here. You can see what's in these pockets, which is really nice. So you're not constantly fumbling around trying to figure out where's everything, which I've done plenty of times. And then the laptop sleeve. And I've got a 16-inch MacBook Pro in here. Fits great. There's not a lot more room here. So if you do have a larger backpack or a larger laptop, you might want to be aware and do a little test on that, because there isn't much more space here. Now, granted, you wouldn't have to necessarily zipper this closed if you didn't want to, if your laptop stuck out, but from a safety perspective, you probably want to do that. But it does a great job, and it floats. As you can see, this is about where the bottom of the laptop hits, and it's all padded on all 4 sides, which is nice. I wouldn't mind a little bit extra float, but they do add, Lowe adds this extra, you can kind of see it, kind of this raised area here. There's more padding here, which is really nice. So the laptop, even if it does hit kind of hard down here, you're going to be in good shape. But I'm always a big fan of things that float kind of in the middle of the bag when you're talking about your expensive tech gear. But it does a great job. Really, really nice. Dividers are awesome. Access is awesome. The protection is phenomenal. This bag is not going to let you down from a durability or protection standpoint. It's super robust. And at 6.5 pounds, you would expect it to be super robust, correct? So let's talk about who's this bag for, because it's kind of an anomaly from a perspective of a hybrid bag, which I tried to use it. You can see it going through airports and such. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it about a 6 from a hybrid bag. It'll work. It's not great. It's really not meant for that either. And Lowe would tell you that. It's not meant for that. This is a strict use case type of bag. It's the tactical kind of focused use is evident in from a photography standpoint. That's really what it's made for, and it excels at that. From that perspective, I'm going to give it probably a 9. I would love load lifters up at the top here to help kind of cinch that load closer to my back, and maybe an adjustable harness for folks who might be a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. But other than that, I don't really have any qualms with the bag from a photographer standpoint. It does its job, it does it really well, it's very focused. To that end, it is a 28-liter bag. It doesn't look like a 28-liter bag. It looks more like a 35-liter bag. It's beefy. This thing is not, for example, I flew, when I was using it in a hybrid setup, which I had basically all camera gear down here and then personal items up top. I flew on Southwest. It did not fit under the seat. And a 28-liter bag should, for the most part, fit underneath a seat. It did not, so I had to put it in the overhead compartment, which was fine, but it was just too big. So if you're on a different airline, I know Southwest and some of the value-based carriers have less space under the seats. If you're on United or Delta, you might be able to get away with it, but it was just a little too big. So FYI, if you're going to plan to use it that way. So how I would see this being used, and it's great for event photography. If you're a wedding photographer, an event photographer, you're on location and you're constantly moving, this bag is going to be kind of my go-to for something like that. Easy to get to your gear. Easy to use it as a hybrid with just the belt. If you want to dump the bag and have that as kind of your base camp and run with just the belt, you can do that. I really, really like that. And you can see the photos that I've shared with in the video on how I've used it. It really excels in that regard. That waist belt is awesome, that utility belt, excuse me. But if you're just running and gunning, or you're a nature photographer, or you're birding or wildlife, all these access points are just indispensable when you're trying to get to gear quickly and not having to take the bag off. If you just want to sling it around one way and get to the side angle, if you're trying to get to a second camera body or swap lenses really quickly, this thing just delivers. It really, really does. The protection standpoint, you can throw this thing around. The one thing I don't know that I would use it for is deep kind of backcountry mission photography. So for example, I've shot a wedding, a small elopement wedding way up in the mountains. It was a 2.5 hour hike to get to where we were going. I don't know that I would have used this bag just because A, it's very heavy by itself, 6.5 pounds. And when you're hiking that long with that much gear, every pound counts. And what's the old phrase of pounds equal pain, or ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. So that does kind of come into play here. And also because of the lack of adjustability and the lack of the load lifters, I would probably choose a different pack in the Lowe line. Okay guys, so at the end of the day, I think this bag is going to excel as a photography bag, and it does that really, really well. I'm probably not going to use it as a hybrid bag for the reasons that I kind of outlined earlier, but it does a great job of what it's meant to do. And that's just a robust, kind of do-it-all photography bag, depending on, and especially for events or outdoor kind of wildlife stuff. I think it would work great for that. So yeah, check it out if you're in the need for it. The Pro Photo line is another line that you could look at from LowePro that we can link to another review on those. That is a little bit more of a kind of a backcountry mission type bag. So it's lighter and a little bit more hiking focused. So check those out as well. But in the meantime, let me get it right. The ProTactic BP 450 AW3. Check it out on LowePro's site and let us know what you think in the comments, because it's a pretty awesome bag. Visit us at activegearreview.com for more in-depth gear reviews for your active lifestyle.